Talking about the rise of radical fanatics trying to push Sharia law into Western culture, the liberals say it's a cultural choice or a religious choice, and that we shouldn't raise our voices against it. Someone who has seen this religious practice firsthand is Brigitte Gabriel, the author of They Must Be Stopped and president of actforamerica.org. She joins us now for a report on Sharia law making its way into America.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be back with you again. Well, last week, a prominent moderate Muslim leader in Buffalo, New York, who founded a TV network to, as he put it, quote, help non-Muslims overcome the negative images they may have of both Muslims and Islam, end quote, was arrested for beheading his wife. Yes, off with her head. This moderate Muslim even called the police, bragging that he killed his wife and that they can find her in his TV studios. When the police showed up, her head was laying next to her body. Mr. Exemplary Moderate Muslim, American businessman, had cleansed his honor by killing the wife who dared disobey him. Earlier this week, a Muslim Afghan diplomat was arrested in Queens after allegedly brutally beating his wife for 15 hours because he said, quote, she was a dog and deserved to be treated like one, end quote. Over the past year in America, we have had 3 known instances of honor killings where the father or the husband brutally murdered either their wife or daughter. There was the father in Texas killing his 2 daughters, one in Atlanta this past summer, and now this barbaric murder in New York. This is not to mention one in Canada where a father killed his daughter for refusing to wear a head cover according to Islamic tradition. All these murders were strictly Islamic, where Muslim men killed women in their family for dishonoring them. You can dress a Muslim man in a Versace suit, give him the title of diplomat, businessman, doctor, or cultural attaché, and tout him as a model moderate Muslim, but you're still window dressing 7th century Islamic male chauvinism. Islamic supremacy creates a mindset where men view women with righteous indignation when they feel women have erred or in some way dishonored them. Also last year, Harvard adopted women-only hours at one of its gyms after Muslim women requested sex-segregated facilities in accordance with Islamic law. So we now have the Islamic version of the Jim Crow South being practiced at Harvard in the name of multiculturalism and diversity.
This is unbelievable to me.
People say to me, Michael, well, Brigitte, this is cultural, and we must respect other people's culture. If the issue is Arab culture, then why don't we see Arab Jews and Arab Christians who come from the same predominantly Islamic culture murdering their wives, their daughters, sisters, and mothers to cleanse their honor as if the woman is an animal and is supposed to be treated accordingly if she does not submit to the chauvinistic edicts of Islam? The ugly reality, Michael, is we are seeing honor killing on the rise in Western countries because of the rise of Islamic immigration. In Europe, a couple of years ago, the European police from different countries came together at The Hague in a regional conference to discuss the rise of this new phenomenon called honor killing. Female murder in Islamic communities had risen to such a shocking rate that the authorities organized this conference to discuss what to do about it. In Britain last year, the police reopened over 110 cases of domestic murder in Muslim communities, believing every single one of them to be an honor killing. In our Western glorification of multiculturalism and diversity, the I'm okay, you're okay, we're all the same attitude, we're allowing barbarians from tribal backward societies to contaminate us with their uncivilized cultural norms. Another very important note. Last December, it was revealed that the financial giant AIG, now supported by some $140 billion of your and my tax dollars, had created a Sharia-compliant insurance product. And they are only one out of many financial institutions introducing Sharia Islamic law to our banking system.
What do these have in common?
At first glance, not much, unless you understand what Sharia Islamic law is. Sharia Islamic law is the codification of Islamic rules that are contained in the Quran and the Hadith, the sayings and acts of Muhammad. These rules cover all areas of life, and in many ways they are extremely harsh, oppressive, and even savage. Under Sharia law, men can have up to 4 wives at a time, not in a lifetime. Women are essentially the property of men, and husbands can beat their wives. Girls as young as 9 can be forced to marry men old enough to be their grandfathers. Women cannot be in the company of a man unless it is a relative or she is accompanied by a male relative. Those who dishonor Islam are in effect enemies of Islam, and the Quran and Hadith are chock full of passages calling for the beheading of the enemies of Islam. In countries dominated by Sharia law, such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Sudan, we see the horrific spectacle of women who have been victims of rape, arrested and punished by the authorities for the crime of adultery. In Saudi Arabia, a school caught on fire, but the religious police prevented a number of girls from fleeing the burning school because they were not properly dressed to be seen in public. In Jordan, the country we tout as moderate Muslim country, where King Abdullah and Queen Rania look as if they just stepped off the cover of Vogue magazine, honor killing is justified in their laws. Lest we comfort ourselves that the barbarism of Sharia law is confined to a handful of countries in the Middle East and Africa, major cities across Great Britain now officially recognize Sharia law and Sharia courts for Muslims operating parallel to British law. In Texas, early this decade, a divorce dispute between a Muslim husband and wife was referred to the, quote, Texas Islamic Court, end quote, for disposition. Polygamy among Muslims is becoming commonplace in Europe and in Great Britain, and it is now estimated that there is in the USA, are you ready for this? There are between 50,000 and 100,000 polygamous Muslim relationships right here in America.
Oh my God.
Sharia has come to the West. Sharia has come to America. Another ominous consequence of the advance of Sharia is the escalating militant demands by Muslims around the world that no one be allowed to criticize or critique Islam. Under Sharia, this is considered blasphemy and is forbidden. This has led to successful efforts in the UN to adopt a resolution calling for countries to ban criticism of Islam or Muhammad because it is deemed hate speech. Truth speech about the religion is being suppressed. Such assaults on free speech have proved frighteningly successful. On American college campuses, students who criticize Islam are berated as Islamophobes. An Austrian member of parliament was convicted for publicly criticizing Islam. Dutch parliamentarian Geert Wilder, flying to London in response to an invitation by members of the House of Lords, was detained at the airport and deported back to Holland by the British government. His crime? His public criticism of Islam were deemed offensive, and his presence in the UK a, quote, threat to community harmony, end quote. Additionally, a Dutch court has ordered Wilder to be criminally prosecuted for his public comments. Radical Islam is on the march worldwide, and with it, Islamic Sharia law. Suppression of free speech is an essential weapon in the radical Islamic arsenal. Radical Muslims could not advance their 7th century barbaric doctrines into the West if they allowed intelligent 21st century Judeo-Christian Westerners to shed the light of intellectual honesty and modern values on Islamist ideology. For over 3 decades, Great Britain has sought to appease and accommodate radical Islam in the hopes that somehow Muslims as a whole would peacefully coexist with the freedoms and norms of British society. On balance, this has proven to be an abject failure. Unless we want to follow Great Britain and much of Western Europe down the path of Sharia, we better start taking action now. Otherwise, the day will come when we won't even be able to talk about it, let alone fight it. Join us. Go to actforamerica.org and sign up to receive our information and get involved. Act for America is mobilizing people all over the country and giving them the tools to resist the Islamic infiltration in our society on every level. Our schools, government, the media, universities, and corporations. To paraphrase our founding fathers, unless we bond together to save our civilization, we are going to be beheaded separately. I am Brigitte Gabriel, and back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Brigitte. The media hides many of these acts of violence in order to be politically correct. But the public absolutely needs to hear about the radical Muslims and their violent tendencies. This is the Savage Nation. Savage.